Joe Rogan is back at it again, pretending to be the most open-minded person in the entire world, while simultaneously being the most closed-minded person in the world when it comes to veganism. He recently had the owner of Whole Foods Market on his podcast and did not want to listen to his perspective one little bit.
Thanks for the food. No one's ever brought me food here.
I'm a grocer. That's what I do.
I know, but you brought me actual frozen meat, so thank you very much.
Frozen meat, some vegan cheese.
Yeah, that will go to friends.
How rude. I would never say something like that to someone, unless it was non-vegan cheese, the product of bovine rape and infanticide. I'd then tell my guests to stick it up their and get out of my house. Not necessarily in that order.
It's really good.
Does it taste good or is it good for you?
Joe, unlike with rape-based cheese, the two are not mutually exclusive. It not only tastes good, but won't cause your heart to explode either, if that's something that happens to be important to you.
Both. It's just made strictly out of almonds. That's all that's there.
Oh,
in culture.
really?
Yeah, taste it. It's a cream cheese with chives in it. It's delicious.
I really just like almonds. Can I just have almonds?
You can, but you'll like the cheese. Give it a try. I know you're an open-minded man.
Yeah,
so
I am. I'll try your vegan cheese.
A bit of reverse psychology at play there. Sadly, of course, Joe does not live up to his promise.
Let me give you a couple of facts that you might find interesting. First of all, there's been only one diet that's been proven to reverse heart disease, and that is a whole foods plant-based diet.
I don't think that's true.
You can think whatever you want. It doesn't change facts. The reason that you don't think it's true is because you're a manly hunter who eats meat. You can't have veganism be correct, or it would make you an animal abuser. Instead of looking at the overwhelming preponderance of evidence, you seek out so-called doctors and nutritionists who share your anti-vegan bias. And that's as far as it goes. Many of these people are moronic carnivore eaters, totally going against the scientific consensus, but because they know their subject matter better than you, they're able to deceive you with fancy words. Fancy words that suit your bias and mean you can sleep easy, even with blood on your hands.
I know what you're saying, but I've actually read that that's not true either.
Well, Joe, if some moron has written something different that suits your bias, then of course that must be correct.
That this proven to reduce heart disease.
Joe, he said reverse heart disease.
That's not what's reducing heart disease.
He said reverse. You're not listening to him.
What's reducing heart disease
reverse
is healthy behaviors, and that you're making this change in terms of eliminating toxic foods and processed foods. And
so do you have any other studies that show you can reverse heart disease without being on a whole foods plant-based diet? Yeah, reverse it.
Boom, the perfect answer. If you're so sure that it's not the plant-based diet that's reversing the disease, then you must have studies showing meat-based diets can reverse heart disease. Perfect answer and very straightforward question. Yes or no, Joe? Let's see what he said.
See, that's the thing. It's like nutritionists have explained to me that there's a giant flaw in these epidemiology studies that people are citing.
This is not epidemiology. This is
how would you do that?
These are controlled studies.
Yeah, Joe, you never answered his question. Could it be that you cannot provide evidence for what you claim? If so, simply say no. No, I cannot provide a single study proving that a meat-based diet can reverse heart disease. Therefore, I should consider that a whole food plant-based diet may be the only diet that can reverse heart disease. You can't bring yourself to say that, can you? Although you must admit that it is fact. Ask yourself, Joe, why is that? Are you as open-minded as you like to think?
A whole foods plant-based low-fat diet has been proven to reverse it.
I don't know if that's true.
It is true.
Okay. We're going to find out if it is when Jamie will pull something up.
Jamie, type in, has plant-based heart disease reversal been debunked? Oh, look, someone somewhere on the internet said yes, so I must be right and you're wrong. Joe, how about instead of this childish you invite Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn onto the podcast to explain his study to you. Have one of your moronic anti-vegan experts on at the same time so he can give them the arse whooping that James Wilkes gave to Chris Kresser.
Because I've read something about how that was bull too.
Well, I read that the person who said it was bull was talking bull because they were an animal abusing bellend that didn't want veganism to be good. Just leave it to the experts, Joe. You've got the biggest podcast in the world. I'm sure you could get a Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn or Michael Greger on if you've got the balls to be really open-minded.
5 blue zones, their diets are remarkably similar. They're basically eating about, on average, according to Dan Buettner, good guy to have on your show sometime.
Well, like Yorba Linda, right? Yorba Linda, California?
Loma Linda, but good try, Joe.
But you know that's a Seventh-day Adventist,
but
right?
But there's also the Okinawa, Icaria, Greece.
Right, but
Nicoya,
you understand healthy user bias, right? And this is like the great example of the Seventh-day Adventists. They don't drink any alcohol. They exercise every day. They have many more positive habits. And you apply those positive habits and the fact they eat a vegetarian diet, you could assume that the reason why they're healthy is because of the vegetarian diet.
Oh, Joe. The fact that they all have very healthy lifestyle habits is what makes this study about the best one for comparing vegans to non-vegans. You thought that they were all vegan. They're not all vegans. There's vegans, vegetarians, pescatarians, and meat eaters. All things being equal, exercise, not smoking, not drinking, etc., the vegans came out on top in just about every single way. And because they're health conscious, the non-vegans only eat about 10% of their calories from meat. That's how meat is for you.
Yes, but we don't have any examples of longevity in any culture that eats a heavy meat diet. None.
Longevity. Like
longevity.
The Maasai?
The Maasai, the average age of a Maasai?
No, I don't.
45.
Well, don't they fuck up lions with spears?
Not as much as they fuck their arteries up with atherosclerosis, as witnessed by a study from the 70s where we chopped them open. The only reason they're not all dying of stroke and heart disease is the fact that infections get them first.
I put the challenge to you. Show me examples of long-lived peoples that are heavy consumers of animal foods.
Well, I don't know of any specific long-term studies that have been done on people who are eating a lot of animal food and are also very active and healthy and making healthy choices outside of that.
Exactly. There are no studies. So stop saying that a meat-based diet is healthy when you have zero evidence.
So what do you think is bad about animal foods other than the ethics?
From a health standpoint, it depends on how much you eat. And if you eat too much of it, then we see the heart disease, we see cancer. These all correlate very closely with
right, but now you're talking about epidemiology studies.
I do this debate all the time too. And so I understand your position on this. And all I would say is find the other where are the epidemiological studies to support your point of view? There aren't any.
While epidemiological studies are far from perfect, they often throw up interesting correlations that warrant further investigation. According to these studies, the more whole plant foods we eat, the longer we tend to live. When people eat whole plant foods, they prevent, treat, and reverse disease. What about that? Again, Joe, if you're going to say that your fat, and cholesterol-laden game meat is helpful, you need studies to back up what you're saying. Do you not have any? Not even epidemiological? No, you don't.
If you wanted an epidemiology study that supported the fact that animal foods are not bad for you.
Joe, you just accidentally said the fact that animal products are not bad for health when you have zero evidence to back up your position was the scientific consensus is that animal products drive the #1 cause of death in human beings.
If you've got the whole world to work from, lots of the world eats animal foods that are grass-fed. And the same type of results show up there. Generally, the more animal
same type
foods,
of results in terms of what? The term heart disease and cancer and with people that occasionally...
Occasionally? What's this occasionally all of a sudden? It's almost as though he's fully aware that meat kills, so he's narrowing the parameters down so he doesn't look so bad.
Like what are the studies you're talking about?
Would you like me to send you some studies?
No, I want you to tell me right now because you're saying it like you know it for a fact.
Rude. You seem a little butthurt here, Joe. What's wrong? I noticed that when you were even able to refer to a study, you didn't even know the name of it, yet you expect this guy to be able to cite studies on demand. He's a grocer, not a researcher.
What studies are showing that people that consume grass-fed meat and vegetables are showing the same levels of heart disease and cancer as people that eat the standard American diet?
Since I don't have those studies in front of me.
They don't exist.
If you don't have the study in front of you, it does not exist. Joe Rogan, 2020.
parsing out the standard American diet, I think we both agree is toxic.
I can send them to you.
It's toxic. But eating horse shit and drinking soda, it's not good for your body.
It's terrible.
Right.
Well, that's where we agree. We agree processed foods are bad.
So when you're getting this standard American diet and they're applying it to an epidemiology study where they're saying, oh, this person eats meat 5 days a week. Well, what else do they eat? So, the problem with those studies is they're so flawed. If you're making someone fill out a form.
You're having an argument with somebody besides me, somebody you've had an argument with in the past, because I'm not saying that you're overreacting to things that I'm saying based on some other discussions you've had in the past.
I don't think I'm overreacting.
You are. You're also very closed-minded, defensive, and dismissive.
But you also understand that most plants are inedible.
Most plants are inedible, true.
Yeah, and most animals are edible.
There are still tens of thousands of plants that are edible. I ate 500 different ones in the first 2 years of my veganism, and I'd just given up tuna, chicken, eggs, beef, and milk. So my diet only became more diverse by about 495 different foods. Before I was vegan, I didn't try eating hedgehogs or snakes, turtles or cats. So what does that tell you about what we were born to eat?
But they also think that one of the reasons why we became human beings was because of hunting.
That's one hypothesis, probably one that's complete. Richard Wrangham of Harvard postulates that it was the eating of starch which accelerated our brain growth. If you consider that the cleverest thing we did by far was to learn tool making, and you need to be able to make weapons in order to be able to hunt, well, an intelligent person might think that he's got a point.
Cooking meat and hunting and having more access to protein sources.
You understand?
Carbohydrates best fuel the brain, not protein.
There's an equally theory that probably when we became root eaters is when we really got brain
I've never read that theory. When we became root eaters, that's when our brains grew?
We started eating tubers, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How come rabbits aren't gigantic brains?
Dunno, Joe. Have you seen a lion that's a rocket scientist, though? Next, Jamie pulled up Dr. Esselstyn's case series proving that a whole foods plant-based diet can reverse heart disease.
Also, changed their diet and ate healthier. But not just ate plants and a plant-based diet, but also remove processed foods and sugars.
Yeah, Joe, if you were listening, you'd be aware that this is what John had been talking about this entire time. A whole foods plant-based diet is just that, whole foods. It doesn't contain refined sugar and oil, etc. by default. If you're going to interview someone, it would be nice if you listened to them. I would urge you to read John's studies that he sends over with an open mind. To date, a whole foods plant-based diet is clinically proven to be the healthiest diet. And the fact is that even the leanest cuts of game meat contain masses of cholesterol. It's required to form the animal's cell membranes. You have a massive platform and therefore massive influence. I'm sure that you don't want to steer people wrong. Now click this.